it has such a smart idea at its core that everything that comes out of that core is just like, this is so great. Everything that spins out of the new conception of Wonder Woman is so good that it instantly like, this is the version I want to read all the time now. I just want this one. This is definitive Wonder Woman to me now.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Highs to approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
Did you know that traffic is worse when you leave the house at 6:20 than it is when you leave the house at 9:45?
I figured that would be the case, yes.
I figured it would not be the case.
No, really?
Yeah, I
That's
figured
when
that
most people are on the road.
between 7 and 8 is when it would be the worst.
Apparently not.
Well, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
A younger lad came up to the counter. He was with two even younger lads.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up to the counter toward the end of the day and said, "How do you check your online credit?" And I said, "Your what?"
I'm sorry?
You know, your online credit.
No,
And
I don't know.
And I said, "I don't know. Online? You know, like a gift card?" And I said, Did you buy a gift card? Or did someone buy you a gift card online? Yeah, it was a long time ago. Okay, well, if somebody bought you a gift card online, then it's a online gift card you use for online stuff,
mm-hmm.
which I realize is not the case. That's what it used to be.
Yeah. If it's a Shopify gift card, they could use it in store.
But they didn't have it.
Yeah.
And anyway, a long time ago for him would be
last year.
2020.
Sure. So potentially still a Square gift card.
So at first I thought maybe he meant the Joy reward program.
Yeah.
Of which there's still no credit.
No.
And then when I thought it might be an older gift card, we used to have a binder that had Square gift card, not Square gift. We used to have a binder that had old gift card totals in it.
When we would have the handwritten gift cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where
the
did
gift
that go?
certificates. No idea.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it. I mean, we switched over to Square gift cards, at least 6 years ago.
So I'm like, look, if it was a gift card that you bought via Shopify, I can probably look it up. Full disclosure, I do not remember in any way, shape, or form how to do that. I know you can do that. So I went into purchases. I'm like, give me the last name that it was bought under. It is a 2-letter last name that when I typed it into the search field, brought up every transaction we've ever had.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be the case.
So I'm like, man, I cannot dig this up. Then he called home to ask somebody, and they couldn't help him at all. I'm like, if it was bought online, then there was an email. You can find that email. If you can get me a code, if you can get me something other than saying, I think I had credit. But man, 4 years ago was an entire POS system ago.
Yeah.
And kind of an eternity.
Yeah, it could be across 2 different platforms. And again, this is somebody who I'm guessing may or may not have spent all their credit and just doesn't remember.
Right.
Because it was 4 years ago. So you could do all this and then find out, no, it's all been spent.
But also, one of the worst things to do would be to do all this and find out, oh no, they have $100 in credit. That is just...
Probably not the case. Usually, somebody who gets $100 in credit usually spends it within a quick time frame. It's the people who get like $20 or something. Like I had a teenager come in with a Square gift card that they were given like 8 years ago. And I had to like boot up the Square platform because we don't use that anymore.
Right.
And then, it was seriously like maybe $20. But it was like they were given it by their grandparents, lost it behind a piece of furniture for 8 years, found it and decided, okay, sure, I'll get some manga.
he was with two younger people, and the youngest of them kept looking at the Pokemon cards.
Uh-huh.
And these kids were in for a while, and they came in just after there were two, I don't know, late teens, early 20s guys who were in for a very long time, and you know the type of people because one of them was telling their friend everything about the history of the DC universe from the New 52 to Rebirth.
I had remarked to Molly Jane recently that one of the most tiresome groups of people that come in, and I don't just want to be insulting to people who come into a comic shop and are interested in comics, but it's like it's two guys, and it's always exactly two, and it's always guys who come into the store. One of them is constantly pointing out different graphic novels and telling their friend all about it. The friend does not care, is not interested in comics. And as a result, they spend an inordinate amount of time in the store, up to an hour, sometimes more, and then leave without buying anything because the friend who knows everything about comics is just pointing out books he owns and enjoys, so he's not looking for more stuff. And the other friend is not interested in buying anything. And frankly, if he wanted to read any of these things, his friend would just lend them to him. So it's like an hour of having to overhear 45% accurate takes on comic books, and then two people leaving without buying anything. It is mind-numbing.
So I leaned over to Molly Jane and said, "Are you catching any of this?" She's like, "Just bits and pieces." And she said, "They're not going to buy anything." And I'm like, I kind of love this because he's doing some deep dives and he's really passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And his friend was paying attention. And after an hour, they each bought a graphic novel.
How nice.
Yeah.
What a pleasant change of pace.
Right. But by the end of it, I'm like, okay, you guys can stop talking now.
Yeah. Again, it's just having to overhear. It seriously is like somebody cornered you, strapped you down to a chair, and made you listen to a podcast for an hour. And you're like, I don't want this. I don't want this in my life. Don't do this to me.
Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
But the younger kids came in, and the youngest one of them, who, I mean, really young, looking at the Pokemon cards, trying to decide between which of the two different boosters we have, finally says, okay, I'm going to gamble. And they kept calling it gambling. He was going to gamble.
That's a good way to think about it. I think that really strips away a lot of the illusion that companies have, that they can trick you into gambling without telling you, like, no, it's like a blind bag. Now you're gambling.
Well, one of the older ones, I think one of them was his brother and one was like the brother's friend. One of them was saying gambling is bad. The other one was saying gambling is great. By the end of the conversation, they're both saying gambling is great. And then one of them said, 90% of all gamblers stop gambling right before they hit it big.
Oh my God.
And I asked,
oh no,
how could you possibly know that's true? Because they stopped gambling, they'll never know what the other hand was.
Right. They don't play the next hand without gambling and then find out that they would have won. That's not how it works.
So the kid comes up with his one pack of Pokemon cards, puts it down, and I leaned down to him and said, "Are you sure?" He's like, "What?" I go, Did you want to swap that for a different one?" Oh, grabs it and runs back to the thing. I do want to pick a different one. And his brother said, "Why did you do that? Why did you make him unsure?" And by the end of it,
you're answering your own question.
They're both telling him that gambling is great and he should buy more. And I said, hold on. Didn't you just chastise me for getting him to gamble? Like for making him gamble, like re-gamble on his one pack? Or was I just stepping on your toes because you're the only one who can make him gamble?
Yeah.
And
they don't want competition.
If so, I apologize. So the kid comes up, buys a pack, opens it up. They immediately start looking up values online. One of the cards was worth $1, but that was kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid seemed a little disappointed. And I almost said to him, "You give me those cards, you can have another pack." But I didn't.
Right.
But what I did say to him was, "Okay, look, that card's worth $1, right? You spent $4.50 on that pack. But how much time and energy and effort did you put into it? And then the excitement you got opening this and then looking at it and then sharing these cards with these two other guys, going through all of it, you more than got your money's worth.
For sure.
And then one of them said, "You're right, you should get another one then." He did leave without getting another one, but the other two left, and he just stood there staring. They literally came back in and had to drag him out.
That's great.
And I couldn't tell if I was trying to discourage him or encourage him.
I think you're just trying to give him an experience.
Yeah, right. I mean, at that point, I was a glass of wine in and really tired.
Was this at 7 a.m? After that commute?
Right. Yeah, so, it was a weird day because it was a pretty slow day.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of talkative people day.
That's good.
Did you ever hear of a book called Council of Frogs?
No.
Yeah, we don't carry it.
Is it a Hellboy book?
Right. Well, in the same breath, they asked for Mouse Guard.
Oh, okay.
And they also said, I think Council of Frogs may only be available on that artist's website.
It happens.
And I don't know if they meant David, I can't remember his name, Mouse Guard.
Peterson?
Yeah, if they meant it was a David Peterson book. Again, at that point of the day, I was too tired to ask any more.
Fair.
A lot of, I'm looking for this one thing. Molly, your customer? So I got into work at 7 a.m. today. I'm going to write down Pokemon Kids. And then...
7 a.m.? Patrick, that's 4 hours before we open on a Friday.
Don't I know it?
Why were you in so early?
Today, which was supposed to be a surprise, but I wound up telling you beforehand, was the electrician day for the new lights.
Yeah, after months of trying to schedule something, apparently it was September 27th. That was the day that it was finally going to happen.
And they wanted to start at 7 o'clock.
In the morning.
I got there at 6:55.
Amazing. Breakfast, no breakfast?
No breakfast. There's no time to stop.
Okay.
Now, I have found a Great American Bagel in the West Loop that I could hit sometimes on my way places.
Okay.
So I may have stopped there on the way in yesterday. And I may have also went there Tuesday.
Wow.
While I was there Tuesday at checkout, I bought a chocolate muffin and brought that with this morning.
Okay.
So I did have a muffin with me.
Okay.
But I didn't stop anywhere. And I had a leftover tea from Great American Bagel from Thursday in the fridge.
Okay.
So I was told 7 o'clock, and I'm sometimes worried that technicians get to the store early enough to unpack and unload and bring all gear in, and I thought I might be late. I was not late because the technician showed up at, I believe it was 8:11 when I messaged you.
Yes.
Saying he just got here?
I'll assume that was the case because I was not awake by then.
Yeah, sure. Sure, and look.
It was my day off. I got up way later.
It is far more plausible that you will find me awake at 5 a.m. because I have not gone to bed yet. It is much less common and much less preferred for me to wake up at 5 a.m. because I have to wake up at 5 a.m.
Sure.
It does crimp my day.
I'd imagine. I feel like that would be the case for a lot of people.
And I guarantee you there's people listening to this who get up at 5 a.m. every day for work. More power to them.
Sure, but it's a different situation. If you're used to getting up closer to 9 and you have to get up at 5, that's a problem. But like if you normally get up at 5 every single day, your body's adjusted to that.
Sure.
It would be like if you normally got up at 5 instead of getting up at 1 in the morning, you would probably feel pretty crappy for the rest of the day.
Sure. So I emailed our contact at the electrical place and said,
the electric company, I think they're called.
I believe they pronounce it like the electric company. And now we have to pay money for that.
That's why I didn't do it.
I'm too tired.
We just spent all this money on lights.
No, we haven't paid them yet. Not as many lights as you think. So I emailed and said, is anybody coming? It is 7:45 at the time I emailed. Guy shows up at 8:11, said that he'd been looking for parking for 45 minutes.
Which seems like an unreasonable amount of time to be looking for parking anywhere.
So this gentle person is a suburban man, because when I pointed out all the parking spaces directly across the street, he said, "No, that's a bus lane. Those curbs are red."
Oh, my good man.
And I said, "The bus lane is on this side. Technically, those spots are 1 hour parking. Nobody ever checks."
That's true. Although on our side of the street, there was a parking enforcement a week or two ago.
Yeah, and we do,
out of nowhere.
We do get that once every 3 months.
If that. I mean, it's usually like once a year, maybe twice a year.
I get it. I don't know if he was driving a company van. I don't know what he had. He wound up having to be 3 blocks away, so he's pushing this cart full of gear. And he brings in a small ladder. And so he's in a little bit of a bad mood. He's in his 60s. He's an older, bow-legged squat man. Okay. And not what I picture in my head when I think of an electrician. And he brings in a ladder that is like a 6-foot step ladder.
Okay.
And I said, "Hey, we've got tall ladders. Like our
specifically to work on the lights.
Our standard ladder is bigger than his. Then we have 2 others that are much taller, and then we have the monster,
the big boy."
And he's like, "No, this will be fine." Okay.
All right, man. So
I said, "Hey, 3 of these don't turn off." He's like, "Yeah, they're 24-hour lights." I go, "Okay." He's like, "That's standard." I'm like, "Okay, but I have no way to cut the power." He's like, "You don't need to."
Really?
So the work he did today, I had the lights all turned off that I could turn off until we opened. And he said, quote, "I don't care."
Did it make you sleepy to have them off that early in the morning?
No, but it did at the point where he'd be like, "All right, can you throw the switch to see if this worked?" At that point, those lights were so bright, and I messaged you and said, "It's going to be bright." It's not. It's fine.
It was just your eyes hadn't adjusted?
Correct, because it's been a dark store the whole time.
Sure. Plus the wine.
Yeah. My breakfast wine.
With your chocolate muffin. Chocolate muffin, glass of wine. Typical way to start a Friday for Patrick.
Look, when you buy a box of wine, it's in a vacuum-sealed compartment, like a vacuum-sealed foil bag in that box, okay?
Once you open it.
No. That's it. That's just it. It's not like a bottle of wine that once you open it, air gets in. No air gets in.
Okay.
And when you release the valve, liquid comes out, but the container contracts.
Okay.
So that wine stays good for a long time.
Okay.
So this is still the wine that I bought for the Wine Ghost release event.
Wow. That was a while ago.
Yeah. And nobody else but Molly and I drink wine.
Is that right?
So the other days when I'm drinking at work, it's, margaritas or beer or lambics, framboise.
Okay. I don't know what half of those are, but sure, okay.
Yeah, the wine, box wine, is good for a long time. Okay.
What you mean is it's not good, meaning can be, like, it actually tastes good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it didn't turn to vinegar.
Yeah, that's the one I thought you meant. And then I doubled back and went, wait, do you mean good? Like
it's both good.
Okay.
Yes. So, guy gets up and he's basically like his little ladder is, I think, the same company that our big boy is made from, because he stands on the top, but it has a little like rim that he could put his shins into.
A ledge.
Yeah, a barrier.
Sure.
A ledge sounds flat. This is like a guardrail.
A railing.
Yeah. So he's on that. And he goes, I'm just going to start back here then. He starts working.
When you say back here, you mean so all the way in the back of the store?
Yeah, by the alley.
Okay, got it.
He starts working and...
The new This Week section, kind of that area.
Yes. Yeah. He hates it. He said...
So do we, which is why we hired somebody.
Right. He said that these are the cheapest light fixtures he's ever seen and ever worked on.
Bruce Fogelson, that sounds right.
Yeah. So I tried to give him a little bit of history of the building. Didn't care.
No, of course not.
Nor should he.
Basically realized at that point that he was in for a very long, very annoying day.
Yeah.
Did not need context.
Within 15 minutes, he told me, there's no way this is a one-day job. And then he's like, because look, every time we hire a company, let's say a carpet company.
Sure.
Let's say an electrician.
Yes.
The person that comes out and talks to us and sets us all up is a salesperson.
Right.
And the salesperson always promises things that the installer or technician can't do.
Correct.
And this guy, and I know his name, but I don't want to use it just because he didn't consent to having stories told about him.
Sure.
He started
Let's say Colossus.
He started to, no, if anything, he looked like Puck.
Okay, sure. I didn't know if we were talking about the salesperson or the
technician.
The technician.
Yeah, so the technician.
And also, I was just coming up with the most ridiculous name I could possibly.
Okay. So, all right, I'll let you name the salesperson.
Okay. The salesperson's name is Constrictor.
So, Constrictor is somebody I would get along with via email, but as soon as I met him, when he came to the store, I'm like, I don't like him.
What a snake.
He's a little bit too smarmy. And a little bit too, like, he kind of blew off any of my concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's fine.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
This is going to take no time at all. All right.
And then it took a couple weeks for me to track him down and say, are you going to give us a quote for this? And his quote was slightly higher than I expected it to be, but it was within the budget of our sponsorship, our shelf sponsorship people.
Which is what's paying for this.
Right. And the only thing that I didn't like about the quote was, it's this much money for the new bulbs and the labor. It'll be extra if we have to run new electrical.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, if something in the fuse box
if
doesn't
there's
work.
New wiring.
Yeah.
As opposed to just materials and labor.
Yeah. So I thought, well, that seems like a nebulous gray area that can be,
Exactly.
we had to do a ton of stuff.
It's going to be this or a lot more.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's a good quote.
Well, let me cut to the end. As of yet, there's no new running of nothing.
Sure. It seems like it's just the labor, but the labor is more laborious than the salesperson might have indicated to the technician.
So, I forgot his name.
Constrictor?
No, not Constrictor.
Puck?
Puck, thank you. I'm the one who picked it too.
You did.
Puck started asking questions. He's like, well, so did you just describe these lights to Constrictor? Or did you send him pictures?
Yeah. Who am I mad at right now?
So I said, no. Constrictor was here in the store.
On site.
And looked at everything personally. And he said, oh. And then he got on the phone and he starts yelling.
But like to just home base. Like just to his...
Well, to start with.
Okay.
He eventually got on the phone with Constrictor.
Ooh.
And
that is not a phone call you want to get.
He told Constrictor that Constrictor needs to have a technician with him at every sales call from now on because he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he literally told me, he said, well, Constrictor doesn't know shit.
Man.
Yeah, so you're right. First he was commiserating with the other members of Alpha Flight on the phone. But then he got a hold of...
The Hudsons, a Sasquatch. Yep. You know how it is.
Then he got a hold of Constrictor directly, and yeah. So it was basically straightforward. He's just cutting the wires to the ballast. Is it happening?
It's happening. In the midst of us recording this podcast, I'm going to take a quick sidebar to say that I have been obsessed with the White Sox getting the record for most losses in a regular season in Major League Baseball history. They're at 120, which ties them with the 1962 New York Mets. They're looking for 121, which will make them the losingest team in Major League
They're
history.
not looking for it, but it's looking for them.
I went to 2 different games this past week. They're Tuesday and Thursday home games against the Angels, the Thursday being the last home game of the season. At first, the Tuesday game was very much like, I want them to get 121. But by Thursday, it's like, after they'd already won 2 of the 3 games in the series against a hapless Angels, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the game. If they get the record, great. If they don't get the record, they earn the win. And they earn the win. But tonight, they're playing the, hopefully for them, maybe, playoff-bound Detroit Tigers, who
hopefully
are...
for them and for Ryan Brown.
Who are currently at up by 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th. So tonight could be the night for your Chicago White Sox.
No, they're your
to
Chicago
become
White
the
Sox.
losingest team. They are. I went to 11 games this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, there will be another update later as we check back on the score after the game.
Yes,
anyway, so yeah, it sounds like this guy was rightfully pissed off.
It was pretty funny to me because I was giving you running commentary.
Except it wasn't, because I didn't get it till way later.
Sure. I mean, you weren't awake or anything, but
I woke up
as
to
it was happening. I kept
7 different messages of this thing escalating for Puck. And it was just like, oh no, this is really funny.
And I was giving you quotes, and then, like, literally, as I was typing one of them up, he got on the phone with Constrictor. I'm like, oh, Constrictor's on the phone right now. Yeah. Oh, but it was a short call. It was a very short call.
Well,
And then, so... I told you this in the message, but I didn't get to really give you the full impact.
Mm-hmm.
So Puck is talking to Constrictor, and then ends the call. It just starts going. That's when I'm like, oh, now he's angrily imitating him.
A+.
And it was that high-pitched whine. But, like, kind of using words that were happening on the phone.
That thing of someone defending themselves in a way where you're like, no, this is so wrong. Yeah. You have no way to defend yourself. Shut up right now.
I did not know how to articulate that in a Google chat window.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate your trying.
How would you spell
So the way that's usually done is the SpongeBob meme thing where you just kind of alternate uppercase and lowercase letters.
Okay.
And that's usually a very sing-songy, sarcastic voice. Like, it's that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then so I was asking him questions about
how do lights work? How does the sun get inside these little tubes?
About the end of life of fluorescence and how they don't make ballasts anymore. Mm-hmm. And he said both of those statements are incorrect.
Oh no!
He said they're never not going to make fluorescent light bulbs. Too many people have them in their house.
So where do we get?
Well, you can get fluorescent light bulbs anywhere.
Sure, but it's the ballast. The problem because we had all these burned out lights.
He also said most of our ballasts were Chinese knockoffs.
The ones that were installed?
Yeah.
In our store?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones that we hadn't replaced?
Right.
I'm sure the ones we replaced were as well.
Probably.
And he said the thing with these is that they could last a lifetime, they could last 2 days.
Great.
I'm like, well, now we don't need them anymore.
Uh-huh. Hooray.
So he didn't take any of them down. He was just
cutting wires
and then running wires.
Fine.
And the thing that I learned previous with LEDs, also he's like, I don't like LEDs. I don't use them in my house.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. You don't have to shop here.
Yeah, dude.
He did talk about that his daughter lives in the neighborhood-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time he went to go visit her, he got ticketed. So he was furious at the city.
No wonder he spent almost an hour looking for parking.
And he said to her, why did you get a ticket? It's a side street. And she's like, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He's like, no, but you can park on side streets. She said, yeah, except those 6 spots of which you park in one of them.
Yeah, there are signs. There are signs. Anyway.
Or painted red curbs. He made sure, because another technician has to come out to finish this, mm-hmm. He made sure on the phone to tell them, you're never going to find parking. There's no parking. And because they drive bigger, like, it's not that they're like it turns out he's driving his own car, but it's customed out. So it's got ladder racks on top.
Oh, okay. Does it have stuff on the sides too? Or is it just on top?
Probably. But like the guy who's coming on Monday has a like a bucket on top of his. Because I'd said, I'm like, we've got a garage.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never fit in the garage.
Okay.
Just trying to make life easier.
Good for you, because that means you don't have to make space for them in the garage.
Correct. Yeah, definitely better for me that way. Worse for me because I have to be at the store at 7 a.m. on Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
thanks.
He got a lot done, more than he thought he would, because he only took one smoke break and worked through lunch.
Nice.
So he worked for not quite
crazy.
5 hours.
That's a lot.
And he got of the way I described it to you, I think he did everything but he did 22. Yeah, he did 22 of the units. There's 6 left in challengers, but there's still sidekicks, the back of challengers, and the back of sidekicks.
Sure.
And shitty for me, I have to disassemble sidekicks because the lights run right down the middle, so you can't reach them if you set up a ladder next to where the racks are.
I mean, the good news is it's really just pulling those. Like, you got to take
it's the end caps,
the grid wall down.
Yeah, the grid is the worst part.
Yeah,
because I just had to do it
That's
for
a bummer.
Other reasons.
Sure.
And don't like it. So hopefully he can be doing like behind the counter when I do that.
Sure.
I
mean, I have, it turns out, plenty of time Sunday based on the amount of deliveries that have not gone out yet.
Sure.
So I can probably just do that Sunday if you want me to.
I mean,
it just...
you can play it by ear.
It doesn't take any time at all.
Well,
for me, anyway. I can get that done with plenty of time.
Well, here's the part where it does affect you.
Okay.
On Monday, I'm leaving as soon as you show up.
Fine.
So you'll have to reassemble sidekicks.
Okay.
While you get all your deliveries.
Who knows if they'll even show up on Monday?
Fair. Here's what I was going to say about LED lights. LED bulbs have the power centers in them.
Okay.
As opposed to a ballast, which is the power source for the light. And it just runs from wires to one end, both end, depending on how the unit is set up, depending on the ballast is set up.
Okay.
So LED light bulbs have all that in the bulbs themselves.
Okay.
But there's 2 ways you can have bulbs. Power centers on each end or just on one.
Okay.
Depending on the bulb you have is depending on the layout and setup of your lights.
Okay.
So what he did, and this is the thing that basically only I have to remember, is he rigged it so the power centers are always in the middle.
Okay.
So the
north end for one and the south end for the other, so they meet in kind of the middle.
Well, because the bulbs only have different ends.
Right.
So it's the same end. They touch tips.
Right. Like MXM collections.
But because we have 4 units together, basically in the 3 gaps, it's the first gap and the third gap, nothing in the second.
Okay.
Because the second would be 2 of the butt ends.
Sure.
The bulbs just look better. They're all the same color. They're all the same style, the same brightness.
They're all on?
No, not yet.
Well, I mean, the ones that he fixed, obviously.
Yeah. He did have to take all the bats down.
Okay, that sucks.
But that didn't bother him.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah, start with the bats. He's like, no, the bats are fine.
Right.
Some he just dropped on the floor, but the rest he would just hang around the store wherever he was.
Sure.
So we had to go find them all and hang them back up. And then, he did make a huge mess, but then he vacuumed, he cleaned up. There was one thing that I didn't see happen, but it had to have been him.
Yeah.
And I fixed it as best I could. And it's a kind of thing that if I don't tell you about, you'll never notice.
Okay.
But he managed to dent in one of the tops of a red bookshelf.
Okay.
He must have been on the ladder and put his weight on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was superhero one.
Okay.
So I got the rubber mallet out, pounded it back into shape.
Sure, it's fine.
And it's what makes it great is there's 2 sponsorship plaques that hide the majority of the damage.
Great.
But it's a kind of thing that it's like, maybe he should have said something about that.
Yeah, probably.
There also was an incident where a ton of the top of the shelf manga all got knocked in between. And the only way to get that out was to move 3 of the bookshelves. Because you can't just pull the middle one out where they all were.
Right.
I had to swing open the horror section like a door,
right,
which was the worst and the heaviest.
Sure.
And then I had enough room to pull the other 2 like they were doors as well.
Sure.
To get back to get everything out. Doing that only took a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But it was frustrating.
Sure.
Anyway, since we have, talked about wanting to get these lights done for a while.
Oh my God, months.
Here's what I thought. Because I was there for so long this morning, I already did all my Saturday work.
Yes.
And I'm going to be there a ton on Monday.
Yes.
And I thought, what would be great? If I could go to IKEA, get the calyxes we want for sidekicks.
Sure.
And start working on those while he's doing his work as well.
Sure.
And then I go look on IKEA's website. They've dropped the price of those calyxes.
Oh, very cool.
By $25 a piece.
That's great.
So they're like, it'd basically be $100 less than it was going to be.
Sure.
But I can't do it.
Why?
Because I don't know what the final total of the lights are going to be. And if they try to hit us up for extra charges for extra labor or whatever else, that wipes out the money we would have spent on the bookshelves.
Sure.
Because it's a very, based off of their estimate, the money we have left from the sponsorship could get those shelves, but it might not be able to.
Oh, I mean, I also have an IKEA credit card.
That's not the point.
I'm just saying.
The point is, also, the calyxes we're getting, there's 2 boxes per unit.
Okay.
So I do to make sure all 8 boxes could fit in my car.
Sure.
And I'm not, I measured like they do on the website, have here's how big they are in the boxes,
right,
but I still need to measure the inside of my car to see if they all fit.
Sure.
Also, that's the kind of thing that has to get done in one. Like, you can't stop.
True.
So maybe I don't know. I'll decide.
Okay.
Probably not, though.
Okay.
So that was my adventure in lighting today.
That sounds pretty adventurous.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Molly thinks it looks way better. Nobody said anything, but I don't expect them to notice.
Oh, I don't expect anybody to say anything.
But it looks great, and I'm happy it's done.
The number of people that will randomly look up at something and go, "Is that new?" And we'll go, "That's been there for 3 years." Oh, all right. So I don't expect any new thing that we do in the store to be noticed by anyone.
Sure. But that's fine. Like, we're literally doing this for us. We're doing this for us and to stop that ballast hum.
Yeah.
He was having such a hard time with the one light fixture that I've always had the hardest time with when I worked on it.
Yeah.
Because I've swapped a ballast out before.
Sure.
And I've had to do other work. Like, I took that whole thing apart, realizing one of these new ballasts or used ballasts I bought on eBay doesn't work. And I said all that work for nothing. But clipping on, the weirdest thing is our light fixtures are 8 feet. Okay.
Okay.
And all the wires are inside. So there's 8 feet worth of I don't know how to describe it. Like, the fixture is a rectangle, a thick rectangle.
Okay.
But there's 8 feet of a flat metal bottom.
Like a base plate?
Yeah, that clips on,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
But it clips on in weird ways. There's 2 2-foot sections and 1 4-foot section.
Okay.
And the 4-foot section goes in the dead center, and there's cutouts to where all the prongs come down for the middle lights, for where the bulbs hit in the middle. But at the end, there's no cutouts because they just snap in front of it.
Okay.
So getting the 4-foot one on is a huge pain in the ass.
Sure.
I almost said bitch, but I didn't want to use profanity. So I had the worst time with that one as well. And he could not get it back on. I could not get it back on. And I was going to say, yeah, that one's a huge pain in the ass for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to put the thought in his head that maybe I'm the one who fucked it up
Right.
by working on it before.
Right.
So I let him work in silence.
Fair.
Well, Dow.
Patrick said names.
Oh, I know what I'll talk about. I was going to transition into all the horrible distributor problems from this week again.
Boy.
But let's do a Batman Day follow-up.
Hey, how's Batman Day, Patrick? Somebody, Nina from the Black River Barbershop, said, "Oh, how's Batman Day?" And I said, "I was off, so it was great."
She came in during Batman Day.
She laughed.
Yeah.
And I kept throwing away garbage.
Somebody, and I can't remember who, somebody said, "Oh yeah, I saw you on TV." I didn't know you were going to be on TV. Like, I saw it, and then you posted about it. So I saw it before you even posted. And in my head, I thought, well, that's not true at all, because I posted about it the day before. And while I was in the green room ahead of time, you just didn't see it until after you saw the TV segment. But I didn't say that out loud.
You just thought all of it very quickly.
And then said it here to be petty. And now I can't remember who it was, so they may have just heard this and said, "You're a dick." To which I have to say, yeah, you're right. Batman Day was one of our best Batman days ever.
That's great.
And
even better than Harley Quinn Day? That seems unlikely.
You know how bad Harley Quinn Day was.
I do. For everyone, which is why DC didn't do it again. They were just like, after that, like, "Oh no, it's Batman year every year. We're so sorry. We shouldn't have done that."
Hey, let me ask you this generic question.
Ready for it.
Why do we celebrate Batman Day?
Well,
not challengers, I mean the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started on the 75th anniversary of Batman.
Yeah, in 2014.
Yeah, it was like they declared it.
Sure.
DC declared it.
Then it was in July, because it was a Wednesday when I was in San Diego.
Okay.
And since then, it's always been
September.
Detective 27 came out in March.
Yeah, I don't think I ever considered it something where it was tied to a specific individual day so much as that was Batman Day. The year mattered as far as like the anniversary, but the day was just, this is a part of the calendar where we can drop this and it's not going to be in the way of anything else. It won't be competing with anything, and stores could maybe do well with it.
So Batman Day for us is kind of a go through the motions thing. And I feel like this year especially that was kind of a disservice.
Yeah, we had the same discussion after Free Comic Book Day where we looked at kind of the diminishing financial returns of Free Comic Book Day and thought, well, maybe it's not so much like a market contraction or the life cycle of an event so much as it's like, we are not putting too much into it anymore. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we start going like, it's Free Comic Book Day, we know what we're doing, we'll just do these, like, what's exciting about it for people? And I mean, Batman Day could have the same thing where even if it did well, it's like, well, if we put more into it, could we get more of a return on it? If we invested in it, not just financially, but like with energy, with sweat.
Look, how we did this year for Batman Day is, it was, I want to say significantly better than I expected.
Yeah.
But that makes it sound like it was a huge day. It was a good day.
It
for
just
Batman
exceeded
Day.
your expectations.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, like, man, I hope people weren't that disappointed because we only limited the free Batman books to one per person. In the past, we've done 2 or 3. But this year, we didn't get a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually ran out of some of them, limiting it to 1 per.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time, but there were 3 produced by DC Batman Day comics. There was the Last Halloween one, there was the Joker the World one, and there was the Batman Wayne Family Adventures one.
Batman Wayne Family Adventures is the one we liked the most, so we ordered the highest on that, and that was the dog.
Yeah, that's always been the weird thing about the print stuff for Wayne Family Adventures, because I remember when Webtoon announced that as their partnership with DC, we were like, oh my god, this thing's going to be huge. And like on Webtoon, it is huge, but like the books don't sell for us. And now we had this giveaway comic and people didn't want it. So it's this weird disconnect of, no, this is a big deal, except not here.
Primarily, Batman Day is populated by kids, families, and youngsters. And there's no real good book to give youngsters. Joker the World? Batman, The Long Halloween, the last Halloween preview?
Mm-hmm.
And then Wayne Family Adventures was the closest one to a kid's book.
Yeah.
We still have a ton of Catwoman tale from years ago, which in itself
the YA
is
book
rated 15, but the preview was geared for all ages, specifically. So I always felt bad there wasn't anything good for kids.
Sure.
But I wonder if we did so well because of that news appearance.
Potentially.
And look, we still have to rearrange parts of the store. We had creators in. We had the League of Enchantment cosplayers. Unfortunately, everybody who came to do stuff for us, they were all gone by the halfway point.
Yeah.
But just to give you, and I made you'd put all the drama books in front of the back issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the tops of all those.
Technically it was Gina, but yes.
Okay. I used the tops of those and made a display of all the Batman stuff we had. Pop vinyls, statues, handcuffs,
neat.
Anything that wasn't any Batman merchandise went on those shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Sold 0 of it.
That sucks.
0. And I think people didn't even notice it.
You made a display. It should have made it more visible.
Yeah, I feel like I just left it where it was.
No, and I'd said to you Sunday when I came in, one of the first things I do after Batman Day is I check the Batman graphic novel section, not just to clean it up, but also just to see like how much of it is sold. Like, what do we have to restock? I remember looking at the section thinking, not that much.
I mean,
some stuff, and I did a reorder on Wednesday. And it was like, yep, these are the books you'd expect to sell for Batman Day, but it wasn't like a ton of deep cuts or a lot of like.
Well, new for this year, the compact comics all went immediately.
Immediately,
because they were
$10.
Only $8.
Right, $10 normally, and then our Batman Day 20% discount.
Yeah,
and like we sold the full size editions of the first 2 volumes of the Scott Snyder Batman stuff, the Court of Owls stuff. We sold
Long Halloween,
all of the Long Halloween hardcovers. We sold, again, just stuff you'd expect to sell. It was the bigger books from all from the Batman graphic novels. People were not buying like a random like Batman Eternal graphic novel or whatever.
Right.
That didn't happen.
But one of the things that showed me my negligence of Batman Day is yesterday when I was vacuuming.
Mm-hmm.
I'd mopped sidekicks and I was vacuuming in sidekicks, and I'm like, man, look at all the spider webs and all the webs and the dust and everything on Batman's cape, who's behind the 2 little gold books displays. Yeah. So I'm vacuuming those. I'm like, I never brought him out.
Oh no!
I didn't bring Batman out for Batman Day.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bat guy.
Yeah, I should have swapped him with Deadpool or put him prominently elsewhere. I completely forgot that we have a larger than life size Batman to display for Batman Day. But I mean, it was fine. It worked out well.
It still did fine.
Yeah. I just don't want that to be in my head like, oh, the next year we should do this baseline.
Yeah.
But it's going to be in my head.
Yeah, it always is. I mean, we always compare it to the previous year.
Sure. Speaking of
how else do you know if you're growing or shrinking?
Speaking of comparing to the previous year, this September will beat last year's September.
Hey, congrats!
It may have already. Actually, I don't think it has yet. But barring horrible Hurricane Helene weather the next 2 days.
Barring the store sinking into a chasm.
Yeah, we should do it.
That's good.
And that's without like 5 Thursdays, or that's without a gimmick that we didn't have last year.
Right. Some weird quirk of the calendar.
Yeah. Like we
that's
didn't
nice.
We didn't crush it. We didn't clobber it.
I mean, I'll take anything that's up.
Yeah. And that's the amazing part, especially because of how down everything else has been.
Sure. And this is before we hit October, where things are going to get pretty insane for DC comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely nuts.
In the best way.
Absolutely nuts. See what I did there?
I did. I did. Okay. So we can either transition to talking about Absolute Wonder Woman.
Tiger's up 4-1.
Or that's what it was before. So
I know, but I'm just saying, it's still heading into the top of the 9th. This is the last 3 outs for the White Sox. Before they can...
Forever.
No, they have 2 more.
They're never going to play a game. No, that's it. They're disgraced.
One of the funniest things about leaving Guaranteed Rate Field on Thursday after the White Sox had clobbered the Los Angeles Angels 7-0 was that the announcement was made that the next home game would be the start of not the start of the season, but their first home game for the next season would be their next home game, and it was March 27th against the Los Angeles Angels.
March 27th?
March 27th.
That's too early.
It's not. It's fairly typical. I don't frequently
No.
go to those games because it's still kind of a little cool.
Baseball doesn't start until April.
That is incorrect.
First week April.
That is incorrect. Like spring training is like February or something.
That's also not spring.
It's not really.
Something is wrong.
I don't know what to tell you. Take it up with MLB.
Tell me this.
Yes.
So when they lose tonight,
Yes.
do you automatically get your 121 tattoo, or do you wait and see if it goes up to 123?
That's the thing. Like, you have to wait until Sunday night. Like, because who knows what the number's going to be. They could even add on more numbers based on how they. So
they've got games the next 3 days.
No, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Well, I meant today.
Yeah,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yes, these are the last 3 games of their season.
I'm having a hard time remembering a day was because of how much extra I worked this week.
I understand,
but
that's the only reason why, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing now, so it still counts today, tomorrow, the next day.
I mean, the game is ending as we speak. They're basically done. Although, so the Tuesday game where they came from behind.
Do you think Dale's going to talk about baseball on the podcast? Molly, I could not stop him.
They were down 2-0 on Tuesday, and they rallied to win. The statistic, the insane statistic that is maybe better than 121st loss, is that for the Sox to come from behind in the 7th inning or later and win a game on Tuesday, it was the first time in 94 previous games, so 95 games, first time they had come from behind to win a game. 94 previous games, when they'd been down by the 7th inning, they lost. But the one game where everyone showed up to see them lose, they won. It's insane.
That's the old Chicago, fuck you to everybody. And everyone has to take a shot at Malort.
That's the Chicago way. Patrick, anyway, let's talk about DC comic books.
Well, so I was going to say, well, let's, because we usually end with reviews and things.
Okie doke.
Why don't you talk about our lack of DC comic books in the store now and Monday?
I mean, it's just the same thing as we've been having for the last month, where lunar shipments are not showing up on Thursday or Friday like they had been recently. They are showing up Monday or Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday. But Monday and Tuesday reliably, in that they have tracking numbers, but those boxes don't end up leaving the warehouse until maybe Monday. It sucks. And additionally, this is the second week in a row where our Penguin Random House books have not shown up on Friday and have not even left the warehouse on Friday. So yeah, it's going to be yet another really frustrating week for me, where a huge amount of shipments could show up Monday or Tuesday. We'll see. And
you have to rush out of there Tuesday night to go to a ball game. Oh wait, no.
Giving me virtually no time to unpack anything, and this is such a minor detail, but it is something that is a quality of life detriment. It means I don't have the new books to read until Monday or Tuesday night, which means I'm getting them all right at the absolute last minute instead of being able to enjoy them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, which makes my appreciation of them so much greater and makes me able to sell them a lot better. Instead, if I'm having to read a stack of stuff Tuesday night, I resent it, and then I end up resenting those books. And that filters into the next day I work, where people are asking me questions, and all I'm thinking is, yeah, I had to stay up till, 11:45 at night reading Marvel comics I didn't want to read because they didn't show up until the absolute last minute.
Just say Chasm.
I don't read that. I read the first one.
Oh. Just say 2099 Conquest.
Yeah.
Or Conquest 2099.
So there's no new details to go over. It's just this is still happening, and we're still getting.
And I talked to other retailers today about PRH.
Uh-huh.
They're in the same boat.
Yeah, I sent an email last week. I sent an email just to a customer service rep to say, hey, what's going on? Because we have not previously had books not show up on Friday without there being some sort of notification about, hey, this is what's happening. So I emailed, and the answer was there was a mechanical problem with the truck. They weren't picked up by UPS. The tracking information will be updated when they are. And that last part was like, yeah, I know that. I understand how tracking numbers work. What I'm asking is, why are the boxes still in the warehouse, and when are they leaving? So this week, I didn't even bother with the customer service rep. I emailed our specific rep, who this isn't really their problem. They're more of a salesperson than they are like anyone responsible for packing and shipping, just to say, hey, this is the second week in a row. This is really bad for us because it means we have to shift all of our staffing to accommodate boxes showing up on a different day, and we don't even know what day that's going to be yet. this is not good. I have not received a response, which was not what I was expecting.
Sure.
I didn't expect a solution, but I expected at least someone to say, hey, I'm sorry that's happening, or we'll look into it. Instead, I got ghosted, and that's not great. So now Penguin Random House joins Lunar in being another company where it's like, how is Diamond inexplicably becoming the good distributor just by being reliable enough to know what day their stuff is coming in?
Well,
even though it comes in the last.
You say that until you talk about shipping costs.
Oh, shipping costs are insane. I don't understand the Diamond shipping costs at all. We are definitely paying for that minor reliability.
I was going to say very briefly when you were saying, all I wanted was just somebody to say, I'm sorry that happened. And I was going to say, I could leave now. But
oh, yeah. No, I get it.
I
get that.
Yeah, there you go.
I get it. Deep cut.
Let's talk about good things and about comical books.
Final score, Detroit Tigers 4, Chicago White Sox 1. 121 losses for the Chicago White Sox, the losingest team in Major League Baseball.
I wonder if people listening are sad to know that you won't be talking about the White Sox anymore.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Podcast.
I doubt it.
I know I'm not.
Patrick, a lot of people like sports.
Absolute Wonder Woman was excellent.
It was so great.
It
Five-star
was
book.
so good.
Man, oh man.
I had heard from another retailer who had put misgivings in my head about it, and real good.
Yeah, so Absolute Wonder Woman was the one I was the most excited about from the launch lineup. Except for the Hayden Sherman art, where I'm like, Hayden Sherman, not really my guy. In my brain, I was like Sophie Campbell, but it was Hayden Sherman, and I'm like, well, I like Kelly Thompson a whole lot, and the design looks cool, but it just looks like Dark Wonder Woman, and that aesthetic and vibe is not really what I want. I mean, that's a lot of Black Label books are like that, and I'm like, that's boring. I think it's the lowest hanging fruit. But like Absolute Batman, it has such a smart idea at its core that everything that comes out of that core is just like, this is so great. Everything that spins out of the new conception of Wonder Woman is so good that it instantly like, this is the version I want to read all the time now. I just want this one. This is definitive Wonder Woman to me now.
Yeah.
And the art is so good. Hayden Sherman, so good.
Remember when Earth 1 was supposed to be that concept?
Yeah.
I don't mean Wonder Woman specifically. I just mean the whole line.
Superman Earth 1, Batman Earth 1. Yeah. And I found those really tiresome. Like Superman, I never was into because it was Shane Davis art, and I could not have cared less than if Ryan Stegman and Netho Diaz were drawing it. And then Batman Earth 1 was Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, and I just didn't find anything in there that was super interesting. There was a couple twists, but I'm like, I don't really care. The Earth 1 line was the ultimate line, basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't care. Absolute is not the ultimate line. It is something else, and it is so goddamn good. Absolute Wonder Woman we were already going to order a ton of because we like Kelly Thompson a whole lot. But we are going to order so much more, and much like Absolute Batman, it's going to be put in so many people's hands. Really, really, really stellar issue.
As you said before, it's part of a big October for
so
DC
big.
Comics because almost every title has a new creative team.
Or a new storyline or a new direction.
And they're celebrating that by having basic white background covers with like a symbol faded in the background of the character running at you.
Like a logo or an icon or something.
Yeah. But just today, they dropped a ton of previews.
Yeah, from the previous week, I don't think I talked about this, but Titans, the John Layman, Pete Woods.
Oh, I read
Titans.
that. I read Titans.
Did you like it?
It was fine.
I thought it was really good. I don't think it's necessarily a book that like drop what you're doing and pick it up. But if you're somebody like me who didn't really enjoy the Tom Taylor Titans and certainly didn't enjoy any of the post Beast World stuff, it's good to come back on now. It's a fresh start. They have a slightly different dynamic. They're changing around the team lineup a bit. I think the art's good. I think John Layman gets the characters right. I thought it was just a lot of fun. It was a really fun issue. It's the Titans book that as a classic New Teen Titans fan, this was the one I wanted. I thought that was really good. But then, they dropped so many previews today. Do you remember which ones you read, Patrick?
None of them.
You didn't read any of them?
No, I was working, Dal. I was at work for 11 hours today.
Let me bring up the Albert
While
Ching
you're looking
email.
that up, I read
Right
Day of the Dead Girl.
How was that?
It's fun. It is.
What is that?
So I was about to say.
Okay.
It's from Magma Comics. It is written by Amy Garcia from Lucifer and AJ Mendez from World Wrestling Entertainment, and it is about. It's very heavy, steeped into Day of the Dead culture, and they spend a lot of time explaining to you what that's about and how Day of the Dead is a misnomer because the celebrations last for days, but each day is a specific concept and a specific thing they are celebrating. And it is about a big city coroner who moves back home because her mom is about to lose her family house. So she comes back to basically save the house to help, pay the mortgage.
Okay.
But she gets a coroner job in the small town they're at. Her mom is also a witch, a bruja.
Ooh, a bruja.
And the daughter doesn't believe in any of that stuff. And while she's there, things start happening. Somebody dies.
Oh.
A member of her mother's, I don't think they say coven, but a member of her mom's group dies. And while that group goes to celebrate her life in a specific way, the daughter is the coroner who's trying to figure out cause of death, and cause of death is exceptionally weird.
Ooh.
So there you go.
That sounds very good.
Also, I like the art too. It's a Magma book, so sometimes the artists are unknown.
Sure.
To me. Also, I reached out to Amy and AJ about doing a signing, but it didn't work out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But any excuse to talk to Amy Garcia is worth it.
Any excuse to reach out. So DC Today for retailers dropped the following previews: Detective Comics 1090, which is the first Tom Taylor Michael Yannon issue; Superman 19, which is Dan Mora's debut as the artist alongside Josh Williamson; issues of Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Green Arrow, Flash, Power Girl, and also Green Lantern Dark #1, which is a Elseworlds Black Label book. So here's the ones I read.
Yeah.
Batman in Detective Comics number 1090. It's real good. It is the things that you like that Tom Taylor did on Nightwing. It's him doing them on Batman. It's an instantly engaging first issue that deals with Bruce Wayne's past and the decisions of Thomas and Martha Wayne that are impacting Bruce in the modern day. But also it's kind of dealing with trying to find a little bit more empathy in Batman. Not that he's not an empathetic character, but that the Batman character is a violent one. And is that doing what Bruce Wayne wants the Batman character to do for the people of Gotham City? And I think it's attacking that version of the character is sort of interesting. The art's great. Michael Yannon just kills on it. I also read the Dan Moore issue of Josh Williamson's Superman. I literally cannot believe that it looks as good as it is, considering that's the second book for the month. Dan Moore's drawing.
What number is that?
19.
Do you remember what number Titans was? Was it 17?
16, maybe? I think 16.
Okay. Thank you.
Superman 19, incredibly good. The art is so good. If you've been reading World's Finest or Absolute Power, you know how good Dan Moore is. This is him doing the next chapter of the Josh Williamson story, but with the brand new edition of Lois Lane Superwoman, which this picks up after that has happened, but they don't tell you why. There's a Superwoman special coming that will fill in some of those blanks and maybe some issues of Superman. But this is very much Lois Lane is Superwoman. She is fighting crime alongside Clark Kent as Superman, and they are a team together. We're also, the main villain for this one is the Time Trapper, but also with a huge twist to it that you find out at the end of the issue.
He's actually Clock King.
I like Superman 19 a whole lot. Certainly, if you're reading the book, no reason to drop it. If you haven't been reading it, this is the time to jump on. It's a great issue that really helps catch you up on a lot of the different storylines they're doing while giving you a big new thing to deal with in having Lois Lane be Superwoman. So that was really good. I didn't read, but Harley Quinn 44 is Elliot Callan and Mindy Lee taking over the book. I plan to read that. I just haven't yet. And they're giving Harley Quinn a slightly new costume. I did read Nightwing 119, which is Dan Waters and Dexter Soy. Dexter Soy, not really my guy. His stuff is a little like a Philip Tan thing where I just don't click with it. But I thought the art was pretty good in this, and the story is fun. It's not a huge reinvention of what's going on. It is Nightwing having to deal with a post-Heartless, post-blockbuster criminal landscape for Bloodhaven.
Yeah.
As well as a new tech company that's showing up to arm the Bloodhaven Police Department and giving them anti-super people weaponry, and also a new villain that is a threat for Nightwing. So it's a very
heartful.
I don't think they have a name. Do they have in this? Yeah, certainly in the sources they don't give them a name. But I thought it was good. Again, much like Superman, there's no reason to drop the book because of this creative team change, or the art team change, certainly. I didn't read Green Arrow 17, which is issue 350, which is Chris Condon, who's the new writer, and Montos, who's the new artist, coming on to tell a story alongside the previous creative team. But I'll be reading that soon. Flash 14 I read. I quit the Flash a while ago when it was Mike Deodato Jr. is the artist. I read like 3 or 4 issues and it just wasn't working for me, so I dropped it. But I came back when Ramon Perez took over. Still wasn't doing it for me, so I dropped it again. It's still Simon Spurrier writing it. It's issue 14 of the Flash. I liked it. I thought it was really good. It's not as dour. It's not as depressing. It's not as much Wally West having a midlife crisis.
Yeah, see, you kept calling it Midlife Crisis Flash. I'm like, it's not that book.
It was when I was reading it. The whole thing was how he didn't want to talk, like he couldn't talk to his wife, and how he couldn't be there for his family, and it was all very weird and sad. And I'm like, this is fine if you're doing Vertigo Animal Man or Vertigo Swamp Thing. Don't do Vertigo Flash, man. I don't want to read that. That's not fun for me. But I thought Flash 14 was really good. They debut the new costume that I think is in other stuff. I remember seeing it in All In.
It's definitely in Titans.
Yeah, it's in Titans for sure. So maybe it wasn't in the All In special, but it's in Titans. And it's a cool costume. I think it works okay. It's got a bunch more black in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just found it a really pleasant read. I thought Flash 14 was a really pleasant read. And then, Power Girl 14 just doesn't seem like it's getting anything more than a new storyline, but I'll give that a read too. I think all of the All-In stuff I've read so far, the DC Universe All-In issues, have all been at baseline level fun reads. Nice. And then there's stuff that's been a pleasant surprise and stuff that I'm really excited about. But honestly, everything's been really good. Like in the aggregate, it's been like a good promotion. It's much like Dawn of DC got me back into a lot of their books. All In is getting me into even more of their books. So DC is really on a tear, and I'm glad that they're making it easy for retailers to promote a lot of these books and to have them in stock, because I do plan on telling a lot of people who come in October, hey, don't miss out on this book. Or yes, it's not number 1, but you can absolutely pick up this issue of Titans or this issue of Flash, and it will be good, and you can read it. So I read all those, and I was really glad I read those today. They were really good.
Nice. I look forward to reading most of those.
When you're not as sleepy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which will be never. Busy couple weeks coming up.
Read them Monday when you're at the store.
Yeah, right? This episode of Contest of Challengers, which, as you all know, is a comics industry business podcast from Challengers Comics Conversation in Chicago, was brought to you by NOMAD, the brand new album by Richie Kotzen that dropped today, and also is dedicated to Longboi. Long may he waddle in the puddles beyond. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.